So what if I told you that right now the Chiefs still have no idea who their next 2 starting cornerbacks are going to be outside of Trent McDuffie?
But somebody's got to surface and waiting for somebody to, assert themselves and say, I'm that guy.
And later in this video, Coach Spags shares why this is so important to figure out. So let's talk about that. Isaiah Pacheco looking great as he gears up for year 3. Joe Thuney back at it and more. But first, how about those? All right, today the guys are without pads going through a lighter 10-10-10 practice before having tomorrow off, and then 3 more padded practices in a row. And as a reminder, a 10-10-10 practice is a day where the team cycles through 10 offensive plays, 10 defensive plays, and 10 minutes of special teams work. There are some 11-on-11s going on, 7-on-7. There's also 9-on-7 drills where the scale is tipped to one side's favor. Overall, this practice puts less physical strain on the players after coming off of 3 padded practices in a row, but still tests the mental aspect in regards to seeing how players can execute the game plan and all the installs. Something pretty exciting to see at today's practice was the return of left guard Joe Thuney. In case you missed it, late yesterday, Field Yates reported that Chiefs Pro Bowl guard Joe Thuney passed his physical and is now off the PUP list as he continues to recover from his pectoral injury. That's the injury that happened back during the divisional round of the Chiefs and Bills game, and he didn't play in the AFC Championship. Wasn't able to play in the Super Bowl. Thankfully, though, Nick Allegretti was able to step in and do a tremendous job. But that's roughly 6 months ago, and now Thuney is back for his first practice. Many weren't sure what to expect for his first practice back, but the Chiefs reportedly wasted no time lining him up in his usual spot, left guard, at the beginning of practice, presumably during warm-ups and the initial installs. However, as we'll see here in a moment, the Chiefs do have a plan with Thuney. They're not just going to throw him in there. They're going to kind of ramp him up a bit. I'll be more curious to see how things look for Thuney come Wednesday, but this is a great step in the right direction to have him out there and looking good for a return, at least in regards to the regular season. In my opinion, he's probably the most crucial player to have out there on the offensive line, especially if Kingsley Suamataia wins that job at left tackle. If you have a rookie out there protecting the blind side of Patrick Mahomes, it sure does help to have one of the best, if not the best guard in football right next to him. At least from a pass protecting standpoint, Joe Thuney is the best. He has had the highest pass blocking grade on PFF 3 years in a row. So 2023, 2022, and 2021, out of every single guard in the NFL, Joe Thuney has been at that top spot. And that's how important he is to the offensive line and why the Chiefs are now better with him on the field. So yeah, while Joe Thuney did indeed return today, working in initially at left guard during the install period, he checked out during team period to watch while Hunter Nourzad, the Chiefs' 5th-round draft pick, worked in alongside Kingsley Suamataia and Wanya Morris. They both got some work in today, with Kingsley getting the first few plays before swapping out with Morris, then came back in before the end of the period. I still think Kingsley, by the way, is the left tackle at the moment, with it being his job to lose. If you remember, since the pads have officially come on, it's been Kingsley at left tackle every single day with the 1s, and Wanya every single day with the 2s. Now, Mike Caliendo has been the guy at left guard since the pads come on with Joe Thuney out, but today, Nourzad was in that spot, and Caliendo filled in a little bit for Creed Humphrey on a few snaps. Creed Humphrey spoke to the media today, said he's not worried about discussing anything to do with his contract. He just wants to play ball, put his best step forward, and help this team win another championship. Hopefully, Creed is able to stay for years to come. But you can tell he's hungry. He said in regards to the low snap issues he had last year, he's been working on his technique, especially when he's tired. Sometimes when he was tired, I think is when his technique started slipping. So he said when he's really tired, he'll go out there and take some extra snaps and just work on his technique, getting ready for his last year on his rookie deal. And before I get to some fun highlights from today's practice, I do want to point out the growing list of players currently not practicing, though most of them are not serious injuries from what I understand. Hollywood Brown, for example, is out sick with an illness, as was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. More on him in a bit, though, because he shared a rather transparent post about what he's been working through. Then Nazeeh Johnson is still being held out possibly until Wednesday after tweaking his hamstring a couple days ago. Chris Jones tweaked his groin on Saturday, but Andy Reid didn't seem overly concerned about it, so I'm sure he'll be back out there sooner rather than later. Next up was Justin Watson, still healing from that foot injury he sustained last week on this awkward play here. He tried to slide to catch the ball. He did catch it, but his leg got stuck under him, and it looked awkward and rather painful. Then BJ Thompson is still going through testing after his health scare in June, and finally Derek Nottie is still resting that triceps injury he's battled through almost all of OTAs. And with Chris Jones and Nottie out, the D-line has been looking like this. Karlaftis and Dana on the edge with Turk Wharton and Mike Pennell on the inside, and that's with the first team defense. FAU did sprinkle in a bit with the ones, with Mike Dana kicking inside to defensive tackle. That's something Dana can do effectively, and Chris Jones can swap places with him on key downs to create better matchups, which is always really fun to watch. And here's an interesting note about Felix Anudike-Uzomah from Coach Spags' presser today. He spoke with the media and said FAU has gotten better every day at camp, though earlier on he struggled a bit. And I thought that was interesting to hear, considering this is year 2 from FAU in the system. I wouldn't expect Spags to just be like, yeah, he was struggling earlier, but hey, maybe it was just a little bit of jitters or rust out there once the pads come on. Not going to read too much into it at this point in time. Then for the secondary, with both Nazi still out as well as Jalen Watson, cornerback Kelvin Joseph has been the guy filling in alongside McDuffie with the first team defense. And for the second day in a row, Joshua Williams has been working with the second team defense after starting out with the ones. He's taken a step back. I'm not really sure if that's a decision purely just to give Kelvin Joseph a better look against potential starters to see what he's got in the tank, or if they are losing trust in Joshua for one reason or another. Josh did say in a recent presser that his goal is being more consistent on a regular basis, which is something the coaches have been asking of him. And honestly, I think we need to see how the next 3 days in pads look this week before coming to any real conclusion about the status of Joshua Williams. Now, Spags spoke to the media today about Kelvin Joseph, and he said Kelvin recently had a baby. Well, his significant other recently had a baby, so he was missing from practice, but is playing catch up, getting reps with the ones, and has made enough plays to warrant working with that first group. He said somebody's got to surface at that CB2 spot, and if not, it's going to get dicey.
Well, we know who our number 1 is, and we're going to have to find our next 2 best players, however that works out. I mean, we know NJ, Nazi's dealing with his little injury right now. Josh has been out there. Kelvin, there's a lot of guys mixing in there. But somebody's got to surface, and if not, it gets tough. You know, you can have the best pass rush in the world, but these receivers get open quick if you're not able to cover them. But I'm waiting for somebody to, assert themselves and say that, I'm that guy that can do it.
They've got some developing to do, mentioning they will certainly miss L'Jarius Sneed. And hearing that from Spags at this point in time honestly doesn't give me a huge boost of confidence to me personally about that cornerback 2 spot. I think a big reason of that is both Nazeeh Johnson and Jalen Watson are battling injuries. Joshua Williams maybe has taken a step back, and they're just trying to see who else they have. Hopefully, though, Jalen Watson is able to get healthy, and Nazeeh Johnson, and that helps add to the competition of that room to see who is going to be the starter alongside Trent McDuffie. We all know McDuffie is cornerback 1. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He spoke to the media today as well, sharing that the defense is out there to prove that last year wasn't a fluke. They were the number 2 defense in the entire NFL last year, and everyone this offseason is bought in, especially with multiple players on the defensive side of the ball entering their second or third year in the system. He personally said he's more than ready to compete against the best of the best this season, playing anywhere in the secondary he's needed like L'Jarius Sneed did last year. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. How confident are you in Trent McDuffie as he enters year 3 with L'Jarius Sneed gone? I think McDuffie's going to be fine, but then let me know who you think could potentially fight and earn/carve out that cornerback 2 spot out of everybody that we've talked about. Do you think it could end up being Jalen Watson, Nazeeh Johnson, maybe Kelvin Joseph, or do you think they might add a veteran maybe come roster cutdown day? Let me know either way in the comments down below. And with that, let's look at some highlights from today's practice, starting with this one here. Thanks to 69 Corn Dogs on Twitter, who sent me some videos from today's practice. The quality of these videos, by the way, are absolutely phenomenal, so thanks so much for sending that. Anyway, you can see Mahomes zipping it right side to Pacheco down the field on a wheel route out of the backfield on this play here. He's looking quick out there, maybe quicker than we've ever seen him. To be honest, the Chiefs have shared several clips of Pacheco moving with ease once the ball is in his hands. This one in particular from yesterday features a near effortless juke. He juked a man out of his soul to find the end zone. He still runs angry. He just looks quicker. And if that wasn't enough evidence, this video the Chiefs shared from July 24th should give you all the evidence you need as Mahomes hits Pacheco left side for a quick pass, and Pacheco does the rest, literally flying, fast-forwarding himself into the end zone. Pop has always been fast, boasting a 4.3740, but with an entire offseason spent healthy in training, when last year he spent it recovering from multiple surgeries, you can tell the difference. He's slimmed down a tad too, not as much as I initially thought. I thought he was closer to like 200 pounds. But last month in a presser, he said he's around 206, 207, so that's only going to help with his speed as well. Then here's another clip from today of Pacheco taking a counter handoff out of the gun up the gut, but without pads on. This is more for repetitions than anything else. Then here's a couple fun ones. Mahomes has been working on some jet sweeps. He sent Rice in motion from the left and pitched him the ball around the corner. The Chiefs send players in motion pre-snap so often in games to set this one up a couple of times, so we will definitely see that happen in a game, whether it's from Rice, Thuney, maybe Mecole Hardman, or even Xavier Worthy. That is still to be determined, but you could see Worthy doing that as well. Mahomes faked the handoff to Pacheco, then flipped it to Worthy as he moved from left to right up the field. Then on this play here, Mahomes found Kelce perfectly in a soft spot of coverage via typical Mahomes to Kelce fashion, throwing it just over the top of Swayze Bozeman. And yeah, this is oftentimes in some of these practices, the 10-10-10 practices, the first team offense against the second team defense, and vice versa, second team offense versus the first team defense. But still, a lot of fun. Mahomes then connected with Kelce again deep down the right sideline, hitting him perfectly in stride for the score here. Touchdown, Kansas City. The deep ball continues to be an emphasis all throughout training camp, which we will see more of here in a moment. But before I get to that, look at this interesting play. Mahomes could be seen throwing the ball to Thuney on a backward pass, with Thuney throwing it back to Mahomes, who then hot potatoed it back to Thuney, and finally Thuney launched it deep to Xavier Worthy down the field for the catch. Quadruple something or another. I don't really expect to see that in a game. I really hope we don't see that in a game, unless it's in the fourth quarter with the Chiefs up by 30 against the Chokeland Faders. I would love to see that a lot. Remembering how much they cried because the Chiefs ran that ring around the rosy play. Good God, they're still crying about it, those pathetic little infants. But if they do it against the Raiders, it's going to be fine. Kadarius Toney was a quarterback in high school, so just put a little bit more juice on it, and he's going to be good to go. A play like this is definitely possible. Another receiver who was reportedly throwing a pass during a kickoff was Skyy Moore, and that pass was actually somehow intercepted. And while this would technically be ruled a fumble on paper, he still threw a pass and it was picked off, so I get what Lyle Graverson was saying here. He shared that Skyy was trying to throw a backwards pass to the other return man during the kickoff period, and a defender got in there in time to jump in front of it. And I'm definitely impressed to read that happened, though when you remember opposing teams only line up 5 yards apart from each other based on the new kickoff rules, maybe it's not that crazy at the end of the day, I guess. Either way, I just not sure I really want to see Skyy Moore actually doing that during a game, during a kickoff, if he makes the roster. I beg of thee, please, Coach Tobe, do not let that man do it. Next up, Kadarius Toney could be seen in action trying to track down this deep pass from Mahomes, and I think maybe he lost it in the sun because he seemed to have trouble tracking the ball down the field, awkwardly jumping for the ball, crashing to the ground, and maybe even knocking the wind out of himself in the process. So while that rep was incomplete, Mahomes completed a deep pass here all the way down to Mecole Hardman on a deep crosser. Perfectly lofted pass there. Then the Chiefs shared another deep ball that Worthy reached back for to secure for the score while on the run. One deep pass of many to Worthy so far at camp, and many more to come in the future this season. Trust me. Here's another connect from Holmes to Worthy down the right sideline for a score, by the way, with him somehow being left on an island all by his lonesome. Next up, I mentioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire earlier in this video, dealing with sickness or an illness. At least that was what was on the injury report. But it turns out he posted a rather transparent update regarding his mental health today, and it's definitely worth talking about. He's been on the injury report off and on for a while now, with many of us just assuming he's been dealing with a sickness like a cold, stomach issues, or something along those lines. However, it looks like he's been battling through PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's a disorder in which a person has difficulty recovering after experiencing or witnessing a terrifying event, and this could last months or years, with symptoms including nightmares, heightened reactions, anxiety, or even a depressed mood. I've never personally experienced anything like this, so I can't really relate here, but I know this is a real thing for thousands and thousands, probably tens and tens of thousands of people, maybe even way more, all across the globe. Anyway, Here's what Clyde shared today on Twitter. Quote, living with PTSD is no small feat. It's hard and very overwhelming. Within the last month, I've had many flare-ups, and the amazing staff here at the Chiefs have been helping me get through some tough times. I'll be back rolling next practice. All love, Glydro. Not gonna lie, I really appreciated his candor, his transparency, and opening up about this on social media. Sometimes there's power in sharing things you are working through, private things you are working through publicly. And again, while I can't relate, I hope he's able to work through whatever trauma he's been through. I don't know if it's the shooting that happened at the parade, something from years ago. No idea. Not going to try to guess or get into it, but I hope he's able to get some healing from it all. I'm definitely going to keep the guy in my prayers, and I would ask you guys to do the same, whether you pray or send him some positive thoughts, whatever you personally rock with. Send some his way, and hopefully he gets better or is able to kind of move on more effectively with his life in a healthier way. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?